Welcome to this public meeting of the Princeton Board of Education. The board is an elected, unpaid group of 10 citizens who set policy and make decisions on educational, financial, and personnel matters for the Princeton Public Schools on behalf of all residents. We're always pleased when members of the public attend our meetings. The board and the school district operate under applicable New Jersey laws and under regulations of the New Jersey State Board of Education. Each meeting includes an opportunity for those attending to comment on items on the published agenda or other matters of interest to them. The board reserves a right to limit the time allotted to public participation. Law limits discussion of individual personnel and confidential matters. We hope our meetings provide useful opportunities for communication between the board and the community. Thank you for attending.
As required under the Open Public Meeting Act, NJSA 1046 et sequentia, adequate notice was given for calling this meeting. It was authorized by the Board of Education and forwarded to the municipal clerk, Princeton Packet, and the Trenton Times on January 6, 2024. It was also distributed to the schools and others on the standard distribution list. The board reserves the right to enter into executive session during all meetings of the Board of Education. Board Policy 168, recording devices, requires that we inform those attending this in-person meeting that the proceedings are being recorded. This meeting is being live streamed. The representative of the sending district is authorized to vote on such matters that affect sending district students or affect the governance of the Princeton Public Schools, as more specifically designated in NJSA 18A 38.8.1. Sending district votes pertaining to personnel actions refer to high school, central administrative, and district-wide staff only. Votes otherwise are considered abstentions. In the event that the statute is amended, the law shall take precedence over this bylaw.
Thank you, Mr. Bolden. Would you please call the roll?
Sure. Daphne Kendall,
Here.
Betsy Baglio,
Here.
Beth Barron,
Here.
Adam Bierman,
Here.
Debbie Bronfeld,
Here.
Mara Franceschi,
Here.
Eleanor Hubbard,
Here.
Susan Cantor,
Here.
Brian McDonald,
Present.
Rob Christopher.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you, Mr. Bolden. Can I please get a motion for adoption of the minutes for February 20th, 2024? Mara, second. Brian.
Daphne Kendall,
Yes.
Betsy Baglio,
Yes.
Beth Barron,
Yes.
Adam Bierman,
Yes.
Debbie Bronfeld,
Yes.
Mara Franceschi,
Yes.
Eleanor Hubbard,
Yes.
Susan Cantor,
Yes.
Brian McDonald,
Yes.
Rob Christopher.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you, Mr. Bolden. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us. We have a packed agenda tonight, so we'll get right to it. Under the board president's report, we have three wonderful things that we're going to celebrate. We'll start with the Streak of Kindness presentation. We'll move on to discuss our proposed contract with our administrators union, and then we have some good news about our acting superintendent. So with that, Mr. Costagliola, and I did not say that right, so please correct me. I should say Angelo. Angelo. But how do you say your last name? I'm very sorry.
Castagliola.
Mr.
Castagliola.
Okay.
Yeah.
I grew up with a name like Daphne, so it's very important
Long
for me to get.
Italian.
Okay.
That's just how
All right.
it is. Story of my life.
And you brought Mr. Burr. And you brought Mr. Burr with you.
I
Hi,
have
Mr. Burr.
Mr. Burr.
Yeah.
It's part of Angelo's streak of kindness. He brought me to this meeting. And I'm really just here to say it is Middle Level Educators Month. So how appropriate it is that you all invited us to come and speak in March. And you've chosen a really great topic because Angelo's really done a phenomenal job in trying to get people united around some things in school to kind of get us all pulling in one direction with kindness. So I'm going to turn it over to Angelo, but happy Middle Level Educators Month and appreciation to all of the staff at Princeton Middle School. We couldn't do it without you. And Angelo, take it away.
Right.
Hello, everyone. I want to thank all members of the board for having me, giving me the opportunity to speak with everyone. My name is Angelo Castagliola. I'm the proud 8th grade counselor at Princeton Middle School. It is important to note that March happens to be Middle Level Educators Month. So if you know any middle level educators, please send them some love, send them some kindness. You know, 1 week away till spring break, times get a little crazy. But, you know, That's middle school for us. I have the privilege of seeing and working with the incredible, dedicated, and driven middle school educators at Princeton Public Schools, and they all do such amazing work. As Principal Burr loves to note, middle school is the place to be. So I'm here to speak with all of you about this amazing initiative that we have been utilizing within our building that offers a collaborative approach to unifying our staff and students. But before we continue, if you guys want a little bit of a trivia knowledge, a little bit of Jeopardy knowledge, if you guys don't know this, in the wild, a group of tigers is called a streak. And it's very, very special because it never really happens in the wild that much. So when it does happen, it's really, really good and really, really kind, and really, really good. So that motif is kind of string along throughout this entire talk. As phase 2 of the reentry to Princeton Middle School post-COVID, Princeton Middle School administration, under the leadership of Assistant Principal Ebony Latimer, in collaboration with the Princeton Middle School Counseling Department, turned our attention to expanding students' sense of belonging at Princeton Middle School through building relationships, promotion of wellness, and developing an overall understanding of what it means to be a part of the Princeton Middle School community by utilizing a simple, common language of what happens around here. The Streak of Kindness initiative is centered on visible representations of Princeton Middle School community throughout the building, as well as tapping into our talents as counselors and educators to assist our students in finding their streak of like-minded individuals when they are in our building. This originally started with helping our students find clubs, sports, or activities that they can join. We also handed out stickers to staff. We also handed out t-shirts and sweatshirts. We also celebrated World Kindness Day, which is November 13th, in our building by spreading kindness like confetti throughout the district by having every Princeton Middle School student create a kindness-themed bookmark. We then distributed all 788 bookmarks throughout each elementary school. Each Princeton Middle School student took a kindness pledge that outlined how they will be intentional about being kind within our building. We also had a kindness patch design contest, with the winning design now integrated into our merchandising for this school year. Over the span of this year, this mindset is used throughout building level educators when interacting with students, because the belief of addressing the whole child is so prevalent and ingrained within the Princeton Middle School system. This kindness initiative is able to highlight safe adults and places that students can go to in order to connect, receive resources for a myriad of supports within the school and within the community as well. Moreover, during the summer, as you can see up there, the amazing members of our PTO and the Streak of Kindness initiative came together, and we partnered with a John Witherspoon graduate, Marlon Davila, who's a local artist, to create this incredible mural that embraces all things Princeton Middle School. Continuing with the tiger motif, we are able to have this beautiful blue tiger and this jungle scene with the golden lettering of Princeton Middle School. And then spearheaded by our assistant principal, Ebony Latimer, and our science supervisor, Dr. Barnes Johnson, we were able to partner with the Paul Robeson House of Princeton to commission a colorful and vibrant mural in dedication of Paul Robeson. Both of these murals represent the second arm of the Streak of Kindness initiative, and how we aim to highlight the bright and vibrant passion of our middle level educators, and how we can utilize our walls and educational spaces to reflect that love and care for our students and the community that we are centered within. And that is in our drama department. So that's right in front of our drama department. So it kind of just brings to life everything that we got going on over there. Continuing, Jason Burr, Ebony Latimer, and John McCann partnered with the Streak of Kindness initiative to come together to revitalize a system of acknowledging student achievement. Our Tiger Stripe system aims to highlight kind acts that students showcase within the given school day. A staff member can then give a student a Tiger Stripe, which is then collected by our front office staff. All Tiger Stripes are collected, and our administrative team of Jason, Ebony, and John host a Pancakes with the Principal event. This is the time where all students who have earned the Tiger Stripes can come together and participate in a short social emotional learning exercise with Jason, and then enjoy pancake breakfast. So what's better than that? The overall goal of this program is to highlight the act of doing something kind for our fellow students or staff members. We have hosted 2 breakfasts so far, and our third is set to be the biggest one yet. Towards the future, we're looking to create more equitable and dynamic ways to integrate kindness into our building. The Streak of Kindness initiative aims to expand the mindset of middle school being a place to be. We aim to make the students, staff, and community understand that middle school is the place to be you, to be a community, and most importantly, to be kind to one another and to ourselves. Thank you all for allowing me to speak with you all, and welcome to the Streak. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We really appreciate it, and happy Middle School Education Month to both you and Mr. Burr, and thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
And what a wonderful thing you're doing. It's, you're catching kids being good, which they're probably not used to.
Especially middle school.
Having had 2, yes. So thank you for coming. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.
All right. So next up, we have the ratification of the MOU with our Princeton Administrators Association. The proposed contract is a 4-year contract with a 3% increase. And I should have started by saying we're in the business of educating kids. So people always say, oh, in corporate America. Well, we're not in corporate America. Our business is kids. And I think what sets us apart from corporate America is that our employees work directly, with our product, which is our kids. And it's very important that we have the best of the best working with our kids. And that extends from our administrative unit, which is our PRESA, our teachers union, which is the PREA, and our administrators union, which is the PAA. And these are people who go above and beyond constantly. And the focus, there could be a lot of different things going on in the district, but the focus is always on kids. And we're just so very grateful to have this level of professionalism with our employees. So as a board, we believe, we'll take care of our employees and they will take care of the kids. And that is part of the secret sauce of Princeton Public Schools. So with that, could I please get a motion? Brian, second. Debbie. Is there any discussion?
Great. Daphne Kendall?
Wait, Brian wanted to send.
Oh, sorry.
Having been in the room, I just wanted to give thanks to the representatives from the union for their professionalism and their clear and evident passion for the district and our children, and they're willing to work with us to come up with a contract that is fair and allows us to move forward with purpose and great energy for the next 4 years. I also want to thank our board president, Daphne Kendall, for leading the effort on our behalf. She did a fantastic job. And it really was a great experience in that everybody worked well together and was very professional. And also it was short. And we're grateful for all of that.
And I'll echo those thanks and also thank you, Brian, and you, Debbie, for serving with Daphne as part of this committee. But we thank our administrators.
Adam.
Just locking in for 4 years. Smooth ride now. We can focus on other things. Thank you. And I'm learning about negotiations.
Thank you. Anyone else? All right. Now you can go.
Great. Daphne Kendall?
Yes.
Betsy Baglio?
Yes.
Beth Barron?
Yes.
Adam Bierman?
Yes.
Debbie Bronfeld?
Yes.
Mara Franceschi?
Yes.
Eleanor Hubbard?
Yes.
Susan Cantor?
Yes.
Brian McDonald?
Yes.
Rob Christopher?
Yes.
Motion passes.
All right. Well, thank you. I do see some of our administrative leadership in the audience, and I didn't know if they wanted to come up and say, or do you want to wait for public comment? But you don't have to, because I know you have an early day tomorrow.
Hello, everyone.
Hi.
Hello. I have my voice back now, so I can speak. During negotiations, I had laryngitis. I would like to say on behalf of PAA, we would like to thank the board for working collaboratively with us for what we believe is a fair contract. And we would especially like to thank the board members on the negotiation team, Daphne, Kendall, Brian, and Debbie, for listening to PAA's needs, which makes the membership feel very appreciated. And so we thank you for a quick meeting. We thank you for just hearing us. All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay, and my last piece of good news for tonight is, then we'll get to the regular business of the district. But I'm going to be asking for a motion to approve the waiver, to allow our attorney to request a waiver for Dr. Foster to continue on as our acting superintendent through June of 2025. Can I get a motion? Beth, second, Mara. I just want to start and say that when Dr. Foster joined us in November, we were very lucky that someone with her experience, her kindness, her understanding of education and children would join us at the time. And today, 5 months later, just about to the day, she, having been here for 5 months, wants to continue on. And this is instead of retirement with a brand new grandson. So I guess it's interesting, right? It's not boring. So when Dr. Foster joined us, we were going to wait until January for the new board to be formed to discuss the search for a permanent superintendent. And that discussion never happened. We immediately, the most important thing to us is that our staff is confident and comfortable with their leadership. And that was very clear. And so, we waited a little bit. We didn't want to seem too needy to ask Dr. Foster if she would continue, staying on. The way the state calculates, Dr. Foster spent 6 months here in Valley Road as an interim assistant superintendent. She spent 6 months at Princeton High School as an interim principal or acting principal. And so she's about, when we get to November, that will be a year. So Dr. Foster has agreed to allow us to request an extension from the state to allow her to stay on. And our attorney has spoken with the executive county superintendent in Mercer County, who thinks it's a great idea. So that's the background. I think the next step, should the Department of Education approve the waiver, we would then negotiate a contract with Dr. Foster for, so right now she was supposed to be here through November 14th of 24. We would look to extend it to June 30th of 25. And so once we get that approval, the contract will be discussed in public. Absent any change in state law, Dr. Foster, this will probably be it, June 30th, 2025. So sometime in early 2025, the board would begin a search for a permanent superintendent. So I just wanted to fill the community in on what the board has been doing. But the most important thing for us is stability for our employees. What we're hearing is our employees are thrilled with Dr. Foster as the leader of the district. And I'll speak for the board. We are also thrilled with Dr. Foster as the leader of the district. And so, again, thank you for staying with us.
Yeah.
All right, now, are any other comments?
I'll just echo that and say, Dr. Foster, we appreciate your willingness to stay. It establishes great continuity for our staff and students, as Daphne mentioned. And we appreciate that students are always at the heart of your decision-making and you're moving us forward. So thank you.
Adam?
Yeah, and again, nothing's going to be perfect and there'll be disagreements and who knows what's going to happen in the future. But just looking, when I talk to people though, on the cognitive, emotional IQ, or organizational, your past at Robbinsville, Yeah, I mean, it is more of a whole package right now, and Lord knows after it's been quite tumultuous in the past. So I think it's good to have a solving bomb. Things are much smoother now. Very good.
Eleanor?
Yeah, I'd like to add my thanks to your staying with us. I'm thrilled that we're able to move forward with this now. I've been hoping for it for a long time, and I've been blown away by your competence, which is really just extraordinary to see.
That's it. We're all out of compliments. Oh, yeah. All right, Miss. Okay, so who made the motion?
You said Beth
Beth?
and Mara.
Beth and Mara. Okay, I can't. I don't have eyes on the back of my head.
Daphne Kendall?
Yes.
Betsy Baglio?
Yes.
Beth Barron?
Yes.
Adam Bierman?
Yes.
Debbie Bronfeld?
Yes.
Mara Franceschi?
Yes.
Eleanor Hubbard?
Yes.
Susan Cantor?
Yes.
Brian McDonald?
Yes.
Rob Christopher?
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
I'm so grateful. First of all, I'm glad this is live streamed because I want my children to hear that I'm the whole package. Because I'm not sure if they would agree, but I have to say I love this community. I truly do. From the first time I came here in the first role, but this is an incredibly student-centered, passionate, and incredibly smart community filled with outstanding staff members from, the bus drivers, food service, instructional aides to our professional educators and supervisors, administrators, everyone. It's wonderful. And working with the board who, yes, we all say, is this what's best for students? And that's how we make our decisions. And I really am so grateful and it's such a joy. So thank you very much.
All right, well, thank you, Dr. Foster. And with that, I will turn it over to you. I'm going to use Ken's, move this over just a little bit here.
So I appreciate Matt helping me move the PowerPoint so I can look at my talking points and just make sure we highlight the great work that is happening in this district. So as you know, the strategic plan is in its first year up to 2028. And so we want to just give an update of where we are with the priorities and goals. So I just want to highlight a few things. Now, I'm going to ask you to be a little patient. We promise to post all of the data on the website, but we have what I would say is a wealth or perhaps a boatload of data to share with you. And a lot of it is promising as we make progress towards our strategic plan goals. And some raises questions, which is a really healthy part of any organization because that creates a curiosity to find out why we might notice data that is not trending in a positive way. And so with all this said, I want to extend my deep gratitude to Dr. Tu, the administrative team, which includes the supervisors, principals, assistant principal, for taking the lead on this important work. And then we must recognize our outstanding professional educators and classroom teachers who have years of experience and yet continue to embrace a reflective stance as they adopt new initiatives, new pedagogy to really make sure that we are meeting the needs of all of our students in the district. So thank you for that. So I love this quote by the cellist. The most foundational value we hold as educators is to keep our students physically and emotionally safe. We also want our students to love learning and live joy-filled, productive lives. The strategic plan actually puts students at the center of every decision we make so we can be truly worthy of them. So this is our promise, our covenant, and our mission. We promise to prepare all of our students to lead lives of joy and purpose as knowledgeable, creative, and compassionate citizens of a global society. Here are this year's strategic plan priorities. They spiral through each of the years that will be extended, but each year we capitalize on a particular part of that goal. So early focus on early years. There is so much research about how children begin. So ages 3 to grade 3. Wellness and inclusion support for all. And we've just seen a wonderful presentation about how that can make a difference in the lives of students. Opportunity and achievement for all, and preparation for a meaningful life beyond Princeton Public Schools. So we want them to go out and be confident and competent so that they can choose to do many things in their lives. So we're going to start with preschool. So this bar graph represents the preschool program overall. There are 130 students. The purple bar represents children meeting the widely held expectations for their age in the 6 areas of development and learning: social, emotional, physical, language, cognitive, literacy, and math. And the green represents the number of children exceeding the widely held expectations. This is actually data from December 4th. Preschool is actually an intervention. It's an intervention program and focuses on the processing skills most predictive of school success. Out of the 130 students, 32 students are economically disadvantaged. 35 students speak a language other than English. 78 of the children are 4-year-olds and will be in our kindergarten next fall. There we go. Preschool at risk students are those who score 2 levels or more below the widely held expectations within each area of development and learning. So this graph shows that there are 27 individual students who are at risk in 1 or more areas of development. The blue bar represents data from December 4th. And as you can see, the orange represents data from our January 19th checkpoint. There's been a 63% reduction of children falling well below the widely held expectation overall, and the biggest reduction in the literacy domain, with a 77% reduction of students falling well below the widely held expectations. And just so you know, of the 27 students identified at risk, 17 are either multilingual learners or economically disadvantaged, or both. All right, so now we're going to go through data as we in the early grades, as we focus on kindergarten 1, 2, 3, and 4. So this is a literacy snapshot from February 14th. This matches the goal of at least 16 out of 20 students will meet or exceed proficiency standards in literacy. Just so you know, this is part of the Orton-Gillingham initiative that was happening. And you can see the kindergarten skills and how they've improved just from the fall and winter. These are things that, you know, we kind of take for granted sometimes, and yet it's amazing to see when kids start to really get that aha moment and see connections in language. So this kindergarten specific data shows Orton-Gillingham, which is our structured multisensory literacy approach and district initiative. And that's for all teachers in K-1 this year. Next year, all teachers in grades 2 and 3 will be Orton-Gillingham trained. And just so you know, that IMSE, because we love our acronyms, stands for Institute for Multisensory Education. So that's part of the assessment for Orton-Gillingham. We're continuing with kindergarten specific data to show structured literacy. And if you notice, name sounds, the data is a bit lower due to the fact that they have not finished learning all of the sounds of the kindergarten alphabet yet. They're about halfway through. Now we're on to grade 1. There are 200 students in first grade, and these are deeper level skills that will continue to be worked on through the spring. Okay, we can move on. First grade, you'll see great growth in reading words. And, you know, if you remember as parents, what a miracle that is when students start to become independent readers. And there's more reading sentences for first grade. Okay. The second priority and goal is all about wellness, inclusion, and supports. So this is across our K-5 district. And as you can see, so last year in the winter, 2023, there was a survey about feeling a sense of belonging. And there was a recent winter survey this past year. And you can see that there's been a slight increase. We apologize because I know it's tiny. We captured it. This was self-reporting, so these are students who are reporting this. My school is a welcoming place to be. I look forward to going to school. When something is bothering me, I have at least one trusted adult, and teachers at this school treat me with respect. And these are some of the initiatives that they've done for social emotional learning. So some of the pieces that they've encouraged to make a sense of belonging is the responsive classroom, school counseling, second step curriculum, zones of regulation, everyday speech, behavior expectations in school-wide assemblies, honoring cultural celebrations, and of course, parent and PTO partnerships and school pledges. Here's the middle school. As you can see, there is a slight increase as well. These are middle school students. There are 783 middle school students. Again, this is self-reported, just so you know. And you can see that there is an increase over time. Okay. Some of the initiatives we've gotten to witness tonight, the Streak of Kindness, the stunning mural unveiling and dedication, the variety of clubs that are offered for students, and of course, who doesn't want to have pancakes with the principal? And then there has been a great effort, and you can see the graduated greens are the positive pieces that they have seen an increase, and they're still working because there is still a lot of work to do for all students to feel a sense of belonging and to feel seen. At the high school, this was a fabulous moment, and I'm so glad Dr. Barnes-Johnson captured this with this photo for Black History Month. This was an assembly that culminated the whole month celebration, and it was student-run, student-led, and powerful, powerful student performances. Besides the Black History Month Assembly, there's also the March Mammal Madness in Biology Hall. And we have to honor, once again, the PHS research team who won the Samsung project for 2024. And with their, they developed AI, they used AI as a tool to preserve the Mayan indigenous language. Of course, we heard, I think a couple of board meetings ago about the eSTEAM Saturdays program at Princeton Middle School, and we do have our beloved PHS research that continues throughout the year and will culminate in the spring. Now we are on to the third goal, which is opportunity and achievement for all. We're going to start again at the beginning with grade 1, and that is the DRA scores. DRA, again, another acronym, stands for Developmental Reading Assessment. It's individually administered, and it helps identify a student's reading level and measures fluency, accuracy, and comprehension. So you can see that there was an increase from the fall to the winter from 56% to 70% on grade level. Grade 2 rose from 58% to 79%, 219 students. And grade 3, third grade did not have the same growth trends as K1 and 2. So again, we embrace this. It makes us curious. It makes us wonder, why is this? What is going on? We do know that we are the curriculum team is going to spend some time training third grade this summer in a 30-hour structured literacy course and infusing a daily structured literacy block next year. But there's more work to be done for grade 3. Grade 4 remained consistent. This is one of the largest jumps up in DRA scoring and goes from small increments of increase to large grade level bands of increase. So again, future structured literacy training is planned. And 5th grade, similar. Looking forward to diving into the spring data for the 260 students to see what's going on there. Now, this is the common, we're on to 6 through 12, Common Lit benchmark assessments, which track students' growth and identify student performance based on literacy standards. This is the first year these assessments are being administered. Although the intent is for all students who are not in AP courses to take the assessment, some teachers of sections of AP English courses who also teach other standard English courses elected to administer the assessments at the beginning of the year to help increase the data available for them for planning lessons for their students. The team under Keisha's work guidance, she's still working to increase participation rate. At the classroom level, data is used to inform instruction and support intervention plans for students who may be referred to INRS. It informs curriculum revision and implementation. Now we're on to math numeracy check-in. The goal was at least 17 out of every 20 students will meet or exceed proficiency standards in numeracy by the end of grade 3. So you can see second grade data shows 64% meeting and in the fall and 77 meeting in the winter. Third grade, 48% meeting or exceeding in fall and 65 meeting or exceeding in winter. Fourth grade, 49% meeting or exceeding in fall and 60% meeting or exceeding in winter. And last one, grade 5, fifth grade, 48% in the fall and 65% exceeding in the winter. Now for 6th through 8th grade, we have for 6th grade 38% to 58%. But grade 7 is 42% and went down to 40%. So again, raises questions of what's going on. One of the things that math supervisor Tiffany Brennan said is because the district condenses the 6th, 7th, and 8th grade standards so much that maybe we need to take a look at the curriculum and the way the progression is. They're still learning 7th and 8th grade math standards for the first half of the year for meeting expectations, and different forms from Form A to Form B. So you can see that they're not quite ready yet. And then I apologize because it's so tiny, but you can also see that this is also a challenge with algebra 8th grade. Let's see, did I get everything? And this is geometry. This is the high school now. So if you notice, there's work to be done at geometry, and you'll also see work to be done in algebra 2. And the next one. Yeah. Okay. So science doesn't have the same assessment tools available for them as ELA and math. And so what the teachers do under the guidance of Dr. Joy Barnes-Johnson is they use classroom level data. So this is an example, and I know it's a little overwhelming, but it's pretty cool to look at, is it really is, it's a 7th grade teacher, and she breaks down the questions she asks on an assessment and looks and sees how many students got certain questions right and how many students got certain questions wrong. So that informs her teaching. If most of the students get a question wrong, you know, she wants to revisit what the lesson looks like so that she can either reteach or teach in a different way. So this drives lesson planning and drives curriculum. They are working on common benchmark assessments across the board for science currently. Okay. And again, I know it's busy. This is thanks, Dr. Barnes-Johnson. But this is, again, the types of questions. And if you look at the top, so the top are the Princeton High School student performance on specific science tasks, and the bottom are the middle school student performance tasks. And she's just showing how they're working to create common assessments that are standards-based so that they can compare across classes and skills. Okay. And one of the goals for the high school was to increase the number of students enrolled in accelerated and AP courses. So here's the data from 21-22. Okay. And then here's the data also, that's the baseline for the work. And here's the data for this current year. And you can see that there is an increase in the number of students enrolled for various categories, increases in most all categories except a free and reduced lunch. That's the last one, and Hispanic went down 0.1. The last goal is preparation for a meaningful life. So what is life beyond Princeton High School? I'm sure Alex and Oliver are wondering about that and probably looking forward to it. So one of, you heard a great presentation by Dr. Tu a month ago or two about the professional development around a portrait of a graduate and all of the work that the Professional Development Committee has done to create these important and essential skills that we want students to take with them. And as you know, March 20th is the deadline for the art submission for the, I'll put a little plug, March 20th for the art submission, art contest for the portrait of a graduate skills. This is the timeline that shows the portrait of a graduate, and I think Dr. Tu had that in her slideshow as well, so you can see how this is going to be rolled out. Okay, and yeah, we made it. I'd say thank you for your patience. Any questions?
Thank you very much. It's really nice to see so much hopeful data, especially that the elementary stuff looks pretty good with some very impressive increases. We do have some, some results that aren't quite what we want them to be in algebra and geometry. And I was wondering if you could give us a bit of a sense of what kind of work the district is doing to make progress in those areas.
You want to answer too, and I can join in? Oh, here, let's switch. Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
I'll talk about math. So that's a great question. So one of the things that we're doing as part of the math program review is have an internal committee to talk about curriculum revisions and standards alignment. So New Jersey has just, I feel like I'm a broken record, has adopted new standards for ELA and math. So we have to revise all of our curricula, K through 12, in math and English language arts. So speaking with Tiffany Brennan today, our supervisor, making sure, I think one of the concerns that I have looking at the high school data is I think we have textbooks and I think we're following the textbook, but when textbook publishers publish, they make textbooks for the entire country, as we've talked about in SAC before, and they don't necessarily tie it to New Jersey standards. So I would really want our internal team to kind of go through the resources that we have and make sure that we're not spending extra tiniest time on things that are not in our New Jersey standards and that we're really focusing on the core. So that's something that, we have our curriculum and we will target those type of things. So curriculum revisions are coming. And the other thing that we're going to talk about more, another plug, math placement night at our middle school is Wednesday night. We're having a webinar at 7 p.m. Is this talking about the alignment of the standards in 6th, 7th, and 8th grades. And I feel that we really compress our standards at Princeton. So one of the things we want to do is, well, what supports then are in place for students to have multiple opportunities to spiral those standards and get practice in those standards. So I'm not as concerned about 6th and 7th grade, because what we are finding is Algebra 1, particularly at the middle school, they do a lot of front loading the first half of the year with 7th and 8th grade middle school standards, and then get to Algebra 1, they kind of catch up. And we do really well with Algebra 1 scores in 7th grade. One of the concerns that I do have is like looking at students who might have like compressed those standards and now they're in Algebra 2 in high school or geometry in high school. Algebra 1 is such the cornerstone of mathematics. So how do we make sure that we are tucking in algebra along the continuum so they have more exposure to it and that they can kind of keep circling back to it, especially students who had middle school online, because some of those high schoolers, I'm sure they can, speak to it, Oliver and Alex, took maybe Algebra 1 or Algebra 2 virtually or partially in person. So yes, more work to come, but I do think that there's some really promising results as well. And I feel, knock on wood, like we're really starting to come out of COVID with some really promising. It's not saying everything social emotionally is where it needs to be or academically where it needs to be, but I think we are seeing some positive jumps.
Just for my own iteration with the pre-K literacy, how is the parental involvement going in individual instruction and year-round instruction? Is that picking up, or is that part of it?
For the preschool program
Yeah,
you're talking about specifically? Yeah. So part of our state requirements are there a certain amount of family engagement pieces, evenings, and things along those lines. So Valerie Ulrich is our supervisor of preschool, and Amy Nashko, who's our instructional coach, really work with our community liaison, Liliana, to kind of connect families to the program and provide them that early support and resources. They really do a good job of bringing people in, and we really prioritize seats in our program for students who are multilingual learners, as Kathy was saying, and also students who might receive, federal assistance with lunch, because we really want to make sure that we're providing a really rich educational experience even before they come to kindergarten. So we can always do more engagement. I'm not saying it's perfect, but I think that we really do a lot of outreach to support our preschooler, because we know that, the early supports really make a difference in the long run.
Mm-hmm. And just, do you think Orton Gillingham helps with decoding and spelling, which is really important too?
Yes. Really, it's about explicit reading and writing instruction and phonetic and phonemic and phonological awareness. So yes, decoding and encoding. So breaking down words to read them, encoding, breaking up, making words to spell. I always say this, and I have a first grader in another district. I wish she was learning what, our kids are learning. To see the amount of growth in a year. I was just in a meeting today at Community Park, and the kindergarten and first grade teacher were saying, like, wait till you see the kids next year. Like, they're so much stronger in some of these areas. So the teachers themselves are really seeing the work, and kudos to them, because it really, there's some front loading that needs to happen when you're taking on a new program. And it's been a lift, but they've really, as you can see from the data, have done a really, really great job. And I can't say this enough, kudos to Sarah Moore for being here, for training our staff and doing the support. She's doing 3 weeks of training this summer with our staff. And actually West Windsor is joining us as well, because word's gotten out about our programming and the support it brings to kids.
And I'm not being paid to say this, but so you're building a foundation, you're changing a culture, and I do see it. So very good.
Thank you.
Yep. I was excited to see with our emotional, social, that more kids are feeling they have, an adult in the school, and they're reaching out. And obviously with our presentation, that we have adults that are really there for our kids. And I hope that continues to increase. And again, you know, a lot of it is from actually being together, being in person. Yeah.
And I will say, I was at Riverside when Principal Actel did the review of the data, and the staff took it so seriously and were like really diving in and like, why might this be? And what could and just really took it with a curiosity stance and just came up with ideas of mentoring programs and just different ideas. So it's just nice to see that we all want to see that as well with kids, because we know that's the foundation.
And I'll just add on to that and say the culture you're creating by allowing these conversations about data to happen. You're not, as you're saying, you're not just sort of collecting the scores, but you're allowing teachers the time to come and talk about them. And then I assume you're looking at those specific students who need help as well. So we're not just looking at trends across, but those are very important. But then the students who need more assistance get that as well. Thank you so much.
I just have a question too. And we've gone from 0 to 9 sections of pre-K in the last, I guess, 4 to 5 years. And so I'm curious also, the numbers are amazing to see, beginning of the year to the end of the year, the readiness. But are we also hearing anecdotally from our kindergarten teachers? I mean, I assume they're seeing the benefit of that. We're actually getting kids even more ready.
It's a great question. Yeah, yes, they are seeing the benefit. One of the things I was talking with the supervisor, Val Ulrich, this morning was there's still just a gulf between pre-K expectations and kindergarten standards. And so there's a lot of conversations across the state about they're really changing the language, and they're utilizing the phrase early childhood more, because they're seeing that developmentally kids are just different and they need more of that social emotional time. They need more of that downtime, self-regulation. And then you come into a full day kindergarten and it's content, which, listen, we all want high expectations, but we also need to know they're 5, right? They've been in the world for 60 months. So you got to put it in perspective, right? So I do think they see it, but I do think one of the goals that we want to have is a better transition from our preschool program to our kindergarten program, and more articulation, so that not that we're driving everything down to the preschool, but there's similar language and expectations. And we're looking at elementary minutes for next year, and in kindergarten, adding a second structured play block to give them that kind of time to decompress is one of our goals.
Can I ask a quick question? So as our 2 senior academic administrators, how confident are you that these are the right tests that we're administering, and also that the testing rates are sufficiently high so that there's, I don't know what the error bars are in terms, some of these were, significant changes and some were not significant in either direction. So just your confidence in the tests themselves, and then the quality based on the enrollment versus test taking.
First, you want to go first?
Yeah,
Okay.
we can
tag team. So that's a great question. I think one of the things that you saw a lot of Linkit data, which is what we use for math. Linkit is basically a test that predicts, has done a ton of research and design, how well students will do on the NJSLA. So this really helps us. It's standards-based and it's criterion reference. So districts across the state utilize it. I do think it's really helpful to have. Common Lit goes a little bit, so Linkit also has ELA assessments. We chose Common Lit because we felt that the texts were richer, that they were exploring the students in the program, and we've heard really good, feedback. We've researched, different variables and felt that data was valid. When it comes to the Orton Gillingham, it really is basic. It's writing capital letters, it's writing, so it's the growth piece. Where we might change in the future is the DRA. Is the developmental reading assessment that we use for reading levels. One of the concerns that people have shared is that after a certain level, it becomes a writing assessment as well as a reading assessment. So after about 2nd grade, when we ask students questions about their comprehension, they have to write. And so that's hard for some students. Orally, they can tell you, just fine. This is the sort of main idea, et cetera. But when you're expected to write, I feel like that becomes a different type of assessment. So we're looking at different reading assessments like running records, iReady. And we actually have a meeting on Friday with teachers from across the elementary programming and Sarah Moore to look at, if we were to explore different tools, what would we want to use to measure? And then formative, it's all standards aligned. So which is the science platform. So basically the teachers pluck New Jersey student learning standards. They give questions that are based on them, and then we can kind of analyze. So I feel like we kind of have a continuum for that's very structured, like Link It, and more of a common lit, and then sort of less structured classroom level with formative. But, you know, as Kathy said, we're still, Link It has science ones that are tied to the NJSLA, but they're still new and piloting. I don't like putting all our eggs in one basket. I like kind of seeing some different things, but I do think this also has been a change for our district. So, you know, we do get some of we're testing again, you know, so it's that balance of, you know, when do we test? And then also I always say, if you're going to give an assessment to someone, you have to make sure you're looking at the data and talking about the data. So making sure we're finding the time to leverage the data from these different assessments. And the IMSI ones, the Orton Gilliam, are weekly. They're short, but they're weekly assessments that are not on a computer. So I hope that answers the question. I don't know if you want to.
And I was just going to say, with the Common Lit, this is the first time I think that the middle school and high school have done sort of you know, benchmark assessments. So I think this is a good entry point.
Thank you. Yeah.
But I think there are other good tools to use when teachers become more comfortable, because they have to be comfortable with administering and then reviewing and collecting the data and then analyzing it and applying it. So I think right now Common Lit is a good one to start with, but I think there might be others that we can take a look at.
Yeah.
I just wanted to maybe highlight a little of the focus you've been doing in the middle school and the high school on having kids feel that they belong, and that work really continue coming out of the pandemic. You know, while we've made some improvements, like that to me is such an important part. Beside, you know, obviously we want kids to read and to do math, but we also want them to feel that school is welcoming and safe. So as you're looking at the schedules, as you're looking at different supports, like the new schedules that you're contemplating in the middle school and high school, like really seeing those kids really feel seen and heard, I think, you know, is always the priority I want to kind of emphasize, because I think that will help in some of the other areas and make improvements.
All right. Thank you. Thank you both. Moving on now to the student board member report with Oliver and Alex.
Sorry. As always, thank you so much for having us. Since February, a lot has happened at PHS. Oh my goodness. So there are a lot of student perspective related topics to cover.
First of all, Princeton High School held its annual Asian Fest this month. The program offered a wonderful chance to experience the diverse cultures and backgrounds of students at Princeton High School.
Yeah, in performing arts news, PHS's Spectacle Theater put on our school's musical Beauty and the Beast this last weekend. It was legitimately a great show, no bias here. It's not like a ton of my friends are in it or anything. It's pretty amazing, and it was so fun to see so many students come out and support our performing arts program.
But as we approach spring break, we turn our attention to next year and the new bell schedule. Starting next fall, PHS is planning on removing the 3-week rotating bell schedule in favor of a simple, straightforward 1-week one. We recently got a look at the schedule, and it seems extremely promising.
Indeed. The new schedule looks, to put it simply, less confusing than the current one. Rotating letter days made it hard to create consistent routines at school and made weeks feel sporadic and unconnected. With the new schedule, because Tiger Time, for example, is always on the same day of the week, students are offered clearer, more consistent opportunities to meet with their teachers. And that holds for pretty much, you know, every class because they'll be tied to a specific day of the week.
We've heard a lot of positive feedback from our peers about the new schedule, and we're excited that tweaks are still being made to ensure we get enough time for lunch and during passing periods.
We'd like to move on to a quick review of our comments last month about the counseling services at PHS, a little callback moment. Oliver and I continue to be so thankful for the people that spend so much time helping out our students at our school, and we're happy to report that a lot of positive developments have occurred over the last 2 months that we wanted to let everyone know about and comment on.
Indeed. Last month, Alex and I pointed out that the new construction at PHS meant that the counseling suite felt somewhat disconnected from the rest of the school. Thankfully, Mr. McMichael, the wonderful supervisor of school counseling at PHS and the middle school, has propped the door open to the suite and made it more easily for students to meet with their counselors without having to have an appointment in advance.
Yeah, so PSA to any PHS students watching, if you feel like you need to meet with your counselor, you can go meet with your counselor now, which is super exciting and, you know, maybe a lot easier to make those meetings happen. Oliver and I also thought it would be cool to interact with our counselors more outside of the context of their rooms in the counseling suite, which is a move that hasn't quite been made, but is starting to be made in the status quo. For example, we think that school counselors and members of the child study team could be posted in the front entrance at the beginning of the day or in the hallways, as the school day goes on, so that students get a chance to interact with them and build relationships outside of a context where we directly need something from them and the relationship feels transactional.
Let's shift gears a little. Over the past few months, there's been a lot of discussion about the High Tops organization and its curriculum emphasizing diversity, equity, and inclusion. We've heard criticisms that the High Tops curriculum discusses privilege and oppression in a way that harms Princeton Public School students. As student board members who both went to the Princeton Middle School, we disagree with that view.
Yeah, even though Princeton is known as a rich town, it's the second most economically unequal municipality in New Jersey. This means that discussions of economic and social inequality are an imperative for students to understand the world and the town that we live in. When we discuss social issues in school, it causes students to understand that not everyone has the privilege of a supportive home life or the funds to participate in field trips or the ability to ski in Switzerland during a winter break.
As students at PHS, we've been privy to the numerous ignorant comments students make in class, whether it's asserting that hunger doesn't exist in America and that low-income individuals fake hunger for money, or that unemployment is simply the result of laziness. PHS students are often blind to the world that we live in.
And of course, having those sorts of conversations is important, but it's important as well that there's a countervailing force that's helping to make sure PHS students, again, understand the world that we're actively living in. Discussing privilege does not equate to shaming people. There's a reason the High Tops curriculum never labels students as oppressors. The purpose of these discussions is to encourage our school community to actively support each other rather than to tacitly accept systems that perpetuate inequality. Starting conversations is important and easy and really, interesting and fun as well when it's done right.
These lessons also don't undermine our education. In fact, they deepen and complement our understandings of STEM, humanities, and social sciences. For example, in my freshman biology class, I applied my knowledge of the cell and biology to understand the issues of environmental racism and the harms it poses on marginalized communities. In world history, students use global history to contextualize modern political crises, including the Tunisia's political crisis, the Russo-Ukrainian conflict, and coups in West Africa. In multivariable calculus, my classmates applied their knowledge of derivatives to explain the causes and devastating impacts of financial crises.
To add another example to the list, this year, our school's research program, which was discussed earlier, was a state winner in Samsung's Solve for Tomorrow program. The program's project focused on utilizing artificial intelligence to preserve indigenous Mayan languages and to help ESL students learn English. This sort of project is impossible without understanding the historical context of language loss and the way that preserving indigenous languages can help to highlight voices that are all too often barred from our conversations.
The world we inhabit is complex and nuanced. Again, discussing social issues doesn't dilute our education in STEM, humanities, and social sciences. Rather, it complements it. We think a high school curriculum that doesn't cover societal ideas and issues like privilege and oppression is a curriculum that leaves our students not only unprepared for the world that they will enter after they graduate, but unable to help the world become a better, more equitable place.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you. I especially appreciated the feedback on Mr. McMichael opening the door. That's really important, and thank you for sharing that and everything else with us. Hope you guys have a relaxing spring break. Get ready for the final push. Yeah. All right. So right now we're going to just switch things around a little bit. We're going to move our first public comment now, and then we will listen with bated breath to Mr. Bolden. But for now, we'll start. We'll start public comment, and we'll start with Thomas Perk. So if you please come up, just state your name, the street you live on, and if you could please keep your comments to 3 minutes. Thank you.
Good afternoon. I think you remember me from last meeting. My name is Thomas Perk. I live on Chestnut Street. I'm very excited that I'm following these two gentlemen with their very articulate view of the inclusion of activities. I have a implore to the board for something that occurred in February. I understand that the high school sponsored a spirituals and gospel festival, music celebration, I guess, in tandem with Black History Month. And despite that, how interesting that could have been, I think it's a complete violation of the separation of church and state. These are not churches, these are not religious organizations, and any religious festivities or songs, despite the fact that it's Black History Month, is not a place for our school. It undermines my efforts. It undermines what these gentlemen have been talking about so clearly. And I ask you to consider that going forward, that to be absolutely adamant and absolute about the separation of church and state, even with minorities, even with Black History Month or Asian History Month, anything like that. It undermines my efforts and my efforts of being, and it undermines everyone else's efforts. And I hope that going forward, we could choose that. There's so many other Black Americans who contributed that we could celebrate. This area of New Jersey is a hub for the pharmaceutical industry. There's so many advances in the pharmaceutical industry, in the sciences. Black Americans have contributed that we could celebrate. Now law is a very strong indicator of our times right now. There's so many blacks who have African Americans who have contributed to our U.S. legal system. Thurgood Marshall, Ketanji Brown Simpson. We have a Black vice president. We can talk about those things, not church or anything gospel. And I thank you for your attention.
Thank you. Next up is Siobhan Karen.
Hello. This is my first time coming to one of these meetings. I just moved to Princeton a year and a half ago. I have two little kids who are going to start in community park. My son is going to start in September in first grade, and my daughter then the following year in kindergarten. I've heard wonderful things about community park and the dual Spanish program. One thing I've heard continuously since I came here was the uncertainty as to what's happening and with the Spanish program. And me and lots of other parents of young kids that I've met since I got here are very excited about the Spanish program. And very much anecdotally, everyone seems that I've met here wants their kids to go to that school. People that I've met with older kids that moved here during COVID said, I would love to have had my kids go to community park and do the Spanish program, but I don't speak Spanish. I was struggling as it was to teach my kids at home, not to mind doing it in a foreign language or a language that I don't speak. So I'm wondering if maybe in planning for the future and what's happening with community park and the dual language program, if maybe people aren't fully anticipating the demand in the community and among people living here to have their young kids raised with a second language. Like that's what would happen if their kids went to community park. And I know numbers have gone down during COVID, but I feel like there's a whole other reason and explanation for that. My understanding is that community park intake is going to be capped for the dual language program for 2 classes. And I'm wondering, can that be looked at again? Is there a way to explore what the future demand is going to be? And if it looks like the future demand is going to be higher, if that can actually be fed into the planning for what's going to happen with the elementary schools and the dual language program going forward. So this is a conversation I'm having with lots of parents, and I decided to come here, get a babysitter, come here and actually say it to you guys, because you're clearly the people who make these decisions. And I'm just one parent, but this is a conversation that I know is happening a lot. And I wanted you guys to maybe look at it again and see if there's something else that could be done. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up is Hillary Smith.
Hello, I'm Hillary Smith. I live just down the street on Valley Road. This is also the first time I've attended a meeting. And
welcome.
first off, just want to say thank you all. I mean, as a parent of very young children in this community, it is so clear just how much you all care about the kids. And sorry, I'm like 8 months pregnant, so I might start crying. But don't worry about that. So like Siobhan,
We're used to that.
I also just wanted to just speak for a few minutes about the dual language program at Community Park. I have a young son who will hopefully start there in 3 years, and then the other one will hopefully be there in 5. But just such a unique program with the dual language, such a wonderful draw to this community and this school in particular. So, as Siobhan said, just want to hope that the need and the demand continues to be reevaluated over time. I know there was a lot of talk about meeting the needs for the children in this community in the strategic plan update. So would just hope that the board would continue to be thoughtful about that and hope and reevaluate need and demand over time. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Next up is Jonglin Chen.
Hi, Zhonglian Chen, Macomb Road. I'm here today on behalf of the American Chinese community, primarily comprised of immigrants, here in Princeton to address a matter of profound concern that resonates deeply with our collective experience. We have come together to present a petition that voices our apprehension regarding the inclusion of the intersectionality course currently taught at the Princeton Middle School, which is informed by the framework of Paul Freire, Kimberly Crenshaw, both of whom have roots in the ideas propagated by extreme leftist ideology such as Marxism. The core of our concern lies in the uncanny parallel these theories draws with the ideological underpinning that fueled one of the darkest period in Chinese history, the Cultural Revolution. During the decade-long turmoil, society was fractured into rigidly defined categories, ostensibly through violent and cruel methods to promote proletarian value and eliminate bourgeois elements. We bring forth a unique perspective on Marxism, one that is not derived from theoretical study alone, but from immersive lived experience. All Chinese immigrants residing in Princeton have navigated an educational system in China where Marxist ideology is not merely a subject of study, but a fundamental pillar. This intensive mandated engagement with Marxism across various stages of our education equips us with a deep, nuanced understanding of its tenets, methodologies, and implications. With our deep personal understanding of Marxist ideology, we have honed the ability to discern its nuance across various contexts. Informed by our experience and historical insight from China to the United States, in contemporary educational content, like the intersectionality course, we recognize echoes of these ideologies, albeit with modern twist. Instead of focusing on class struggle, these modern adaptations use identity politics, including race and gender, as tool to challenge and destabilize traditional society structure, aiming to pave the way for a new, purportedly liberated world. These shifts, while appearing innovative, still reflect the core Marxist principle with which we are intimately familiar. To us, attempt to modify or beautify these ideologies are akin to putting lipstick on a pig. No matter the embellishment or reinterpretation, the ugly core remains recognizable to those who know what to look for. Just as one might discern the underlying feature of a pig beneath cosmetic enhancement, we can identify the essence of Marxism within these modern framework, regardless of how they are dressed up or nuanced. Our intention is not to dismiss the intent or value of academic exploration, but to caution against the uncritical adoption of any ideology to be taught in our classroom without a thorough examination to its origin, intention, and potential negative impact.
All right, thank you.
And I have sent the petition
Yes,
to all of you.
received. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next up is Nicole Pezzelt Hancock.
Hi, I'm Nicole Hancock, and I live at 125 Jefferson Road. Sorry, Jefferson. Sorry, you guys can all come over now. I know it's not on the agenda tonight. The long-term planning committee's presentation on updated demographics and updated plans for the additions at CP, Littlebrook, and the middle school, which I take as actually maybe a positive sign that you guys really are taking a lot of care and proceeding, very intentionally toward, a final plan. As you proceed, there are a couple things that I continue to hear from CP parents, and I hope that they're part of the discussion that you're having. One is the impact on traffic and parking. This concerns not just CP parents, but CP staff members, as well as community members. The car line, it does back up onto Witherspoon twice a day. But it also is incredibly difficult for staff members to access the parking lot because there's only one entrance. It's the same entrance as the car line. So, and then, our car line does end on a very tiny residential street, Birch Avenue. So it would be great if there was some attention paid to the impact there, and how to make an already kind of dysfunctional system more functional as we add capacity. The other thing that I continue to hear is concerns about the impact on the playground because of the size of the footprint of the two additions planned at Community Park. And I've brought this up, personally to some committee members, and I hope that it is something that the architect is looking at to make sure that while we build the necessary capacity at the school, that we're also really cognizant of the fact that the playground is the heart of the community, and I'm not overstating that. It really is, and it's the heart of a community where a lot of people have small lots or no lots at all because they're already in apartments. So it's vitally important, and one way that you might help to allay some of those concerns is to maybe show what the CP5 preliminary sketch might have looked like versus CP4, just to show how it was reduced, and that really is, part of the thinking there going forward. Thank you.
So we do have another public comment section, but anyone who would like to speak now, please feel free to come up.
Hi, my name's Abigail Kallenbach, and I live on Orchard Circle. Thank you, gentlemen, for your feedback on the High Tops program. And it really is an incredible program, and it's incredible to hear you guys speak. I'm not speaking about that today. I'm speaking in support of CP and echoing what Siobhan said, and also what Nicole was saying. And also trying to tie in with your strategic goals. It was actually really nice to hear that your first strategic goal is from age 3 to grade 3. I'm a neuroscientist, developmental neuroscientist, and learning languages when you're in the womb, literally, is the best time to learn it. And basically, each year after that, your ability to learn languages goes down. My daughter is a second grader at CP. She's been spending less than 40% of her time in Spanish, in the Spanish immersion school. Her math scores, she is definitely in the poor section of the math scores because of the word problems. Math itself, English, she's got it. It's because I think that we aren't structuring the immersion as a full immersion like the other schools in this town. It's starts at 100% full immersion at ages 3 and 4, and in kindergarten, and even the New Jersey Department of Education has written about how when programs are trying to get to a 50-50 split, Spanish English, they start at 100% or 90% of the second language and 10% of English. And then hopefully by third and fourth grade, that balances out to 50-50. So in order to really get the most out of this dual language program, the district really needs to invest in more Spanish teachers. Right now, it's encouraging that the pre-K class at CP is spending 70% of their day in Spanish, but that quickly drops to 40% of their day the next year. Supplemental conversational Spanish classes should be offered for an hour after school for comparable costs as aftercare. Some Spanish teachers and PTO members tried to create something, but weren't allowed for reasons I don't understand. And that was partly in me continually to ask for additional Spanish help, because I don't speak Spanish. And if you guys have a 7-year-old girl and you say the wrong thing in another language with the wrong accent. Doesn't go well. And Spanish camps should be offered throughout the summer, not just for 1 week. As someone mentioned earlier, year-round support and early development is key. And then also to sponsor classes and resources for parents to learn more. And I echo especially Nicole's words about the CP playground. If you see these kids playing after school or in the after school program, they're like gazelles out on the Serengeti, and they're having the grandest time running from one corner of the playground to the other, even when there's mud and everything else to play with. And that's part of education. We need to give them space.
Thank you. Is there anyone else? Public comment? Oh.
Thank you very much. And thank you both for your comments. I really appreciate that. My name is Leanna Jonke, and I live on Linden Lane. And I feel a little bit like the Lorax because I speak here not for the Black and minority community, but as a member of the community. And thank you for sharing the data. As a teacher and educator, I really reflect on it too. And I just want to clarify for this slide that was shared about AP numbers, were those numbers or percentages?
It's a great question. Percentages.
Okay. So thank you for sharing that. They were very disappointing, just for Black and Hispanic, and particularly for low-income families too. And as a member of that community, I was a low-income student, and it was only through access through accelerated classes that I was able to attend a wonderful institution for undergrad. And so knowing that those doors are being closed to our students from high school is very disappointing, because it does set them up for lack of access to future opportunities. And so my background is actually in encouraging low-income, high-achieving students to do their best and then to eventually apply to top-tier colleges like I did. And so I know some practices myself, but after attending the equity committee, one of my suggestions was for the board and for the staff to go to institutions that are primarily serving African-American and Hispanic students to see how are they doing it, because it's not as much of a struggle as it should be. And so that is my recommendation, and I will be back to speak for the trees. Thank you. Thank you.
Is there? Yes.
Hi, Brett Jack now, Fran Road. So I just want to say, Dr. Foster, we're really glad that you're here. We're really glad you're staying. You've brought great continuity, stability to this district. I know myself, my wife, our house is thrilled that you're here. Your journey here came at a great, not through no fault of yours, came at a great cost to this community, emotionally and fiscally. And this is not directed to you. This is sort of more for the board now. This district is paying for 2 superintendents right now. I heard the vote earlier about the contracts, which were renewed for a 4% increase, 3%. Okay. So our tax rates still go up 2%. So I don't know what the budget looks like, but this district's going to need to raise more money. So I'm under no illusion, and I could be wrong, that there's another referendum coming. This is an election year, a presidential election year, where voter turnout is exceedingly higher than at any other election year. And I just hope that this board does the right thing. And if it does go ahead with the referendum, that it does it on election day, on this November election day, and doesn't do it as an out-of-cycle referendum. I think that would be disingenuous for this community. the voter turnout is not it's not as good of a representation of the community as it is on the presidential election year. So I hope that if we go ahead and do that, that you guys will do the right thing and do it on election day. Thanks.
Anyone else for public comment? All right, I'm going to turn it over to you, Mr. Bolden.
Great, thank you. So tonight is the tentative adoption of the budget. The board will vote in the consent agenda portion, and then we submit this budget by Wednesday afternoon to the county, and they give back any technical feedback. And the adoption of the budget is a public budget hearing on April 30th. So first we'll talk about a little bit about strategic planning goals, zero-based budgeting, how we look at it here, the budget calendar, school tax overview, tax impact, debt service analysis, and then some details analysis of the budget itself. And then we'll take questions from the board and the public if they have any. We read this before. Dr. Foster had a wonderful presentation, so I'm not going to read this, but it is our mission and our promise to our students and the community. Strategic planning goals, we just went over. Zero-based budgeting, philosophically, is where we build each budget from scratch. It's a goal, and we try to consistently get better at this and not just add on, but to really look at every dollar that we spend as a school district. The last gentleman who spoke, we have tax caps. It gets more difficult, especially in the last couple of years of severe inflationary pressure. We haven't seen in 40 years, so it's adds a lot of challenges. So it's really important to look at each dollar we spend every year. The budget calendar, we are in the highlighted portion there. We started back in November, working across the district with our staff. We're at the tentative budget adoption. I gave a brief overview of what the rest of the budget calendar looks like. And I'll continue moving forward with the presentation. I go over this a lot. There are a lot of things that make Princeton unique, world-class university in our backyard. We have small schools, especially at the elementary level, with generally very good, favorable class sizes, which means small. We have a large number of student programs and opportunities. We have a lot of services in the community to support our elementary, middle, and high school students. We have a very experienced teaching staff, programs that are far above the state minimums. We do have a higher percentage of students navigating or families navigating poverty than most high-performing school districts. And we have a strong commitment to equity. The 24-25 budget drivers, it consistently still tends to be meeting, student needs post-pandemic. I don't like talking about the pandemic. I'm, done with it myself, but it has exacerbated, learning for many students, and it affected the district and the world as a whole. So we're consistently dealing with that and trying to offer more services to meet the needs of our students. Inflation, I just spoke about, and scarcity. There are less teachers, unfortunately, graduating from our schools every year. The cohort from TCNJ seems to be smaller each year. It's a super strong pool of teachers in the state. It's about 12 miles from here. So it's challenging. Transportation costs have gone up over $2 million in 3 years. And we also face pressure on healthcare costs and insurance, which is, even if we haven't had a lot of, catastrophes here, insurance is pooled risk really across the whole world. So all the climate change that's happening, these massive floods, I forgot the term that they call the rains that come down, in Los Angeles, particularly, but all throughout the world, affect our insurance rates. We're also consistently improving our pedagogy. pedagogy. We want to make sure we have adequate funds for improving our curriculum instruction, and we continue each year to focus on maintaining and improving our facilities. It's something we're proud of. Some other accomplishments really over the last, we passed 2 referenda in the last 2 years. These referenda have been focused on just that, improving our facilities. In the past few years, we have completed reviews of math, dual language immersion, special education, and technology departments and programs. And we're continuing to plan for the increased development in our town with our long-term planning consultants and our committee and administration. We're consistently improving our pedagogy with rolling out new data tools and improving multi-tiered structures for support, which help our students who need help. We utilize grants available from both Princeton and the state to offer extra supports and tutoring for some of our students. Get to start to talk a little more about the financials. Both pie charts are virtually identical. Half the taxes, just under, in the town that the taxpayers pay go towards the schools. About a little under a quarter to the municipal taxes, and getting close to a third goes to the county taxes. Our 24-25 tax levy is 2 pieces to that. So when I talked about the referenda, on the right would be the debt service levy, which funds long-term capital projects and are approved by taxpayers via referenda. As of June 30th, 23, we had $40.975 million outstanding. The bulk of our spending is our operating budget. We are subject to 2% cap with certain waivers that are allowed for enrollment increases over time and healthcare cost increases. We did issue new bonds just at the very end of December in 23 on the November 7th referendum. So as of December 31st, we had just under $54 million of debt outstanding. Our AAA credit rating with Moody's was reaffirmed. We're one of 2 districts in the state with AAA credit, which is the highest that you can get. So we're happy to still be attaining that high level.
Do you know what the other one is?
I think it's Milburn, but Standard & Poor's has a few more than that. So this slide looks at our net debt service, quote unquote net, which means debt service net of state aid. When we as a school district issue bonds, we get up to 34% back from the state. Technically speaking, when you read the question in the referendum, it says 40%, but it's prorated. So that's the maximum we can get back. So that's what net debt service means. Our recent peak was in fiscal 21. We are over here now in fiscal 25, which should be slightly less than fiscal 24. Rising interest rates have increased our borrowing costs, but as the money sits in the bank waiting to pay down the capital projects, the earnings are higher too, so that adds a little bit to the equation. This looks at our different the difference between the school district, which is on a fiscal June 30th year end, and the towns on a calendar. So each year, taxes are collected through the town to pay, and they pay the school our past budget, and it breaks out the each calendar year is half of one of our fiscal years and the other half of the fiscal year. So the tentative adopted calendar 24 total school tax levy is $90.176 million. The school taxes tentatively increases from 1.236 to 1.264. The tax assessed net assessed valuation numbers did rise about 0.2%, which means that the tax is paid for over a larger base, which helps the taxpayer. The 2.48% estimated calendar year school tax levy would be a 2.26% quote unquote effective school tax increase because of the larger base of taxpayers. So that's a good thing. This is a historical where we were with our tax levies. Really want to focus each year of the increases. This year, it was proposed at this tentative budget adoption on the net or the total, which would include operating and debt service at 2.07%. Over the last 7 years, the average is, so we're slightly under that. The average has been 2.14%. The average taxpayer for the tentatively adopted budget, which is right around $850,000 per home, would pay $236.61 of additional taxes. This looks at the last 9 years of the difference when I talked about briefly about effective taxes. So because of the favorable, the strong economic viability of Princeton, we've had, generally speaking, rising tax base over the years. So the tax levy increases of 2.44% over the last 9 years, and that's a compound annual growth rate, feels more like a 1.94% increase. So that's a good thing. This chart looks at historically our operating general fund tax increases here at the bottom, 2.1% for this year. The total is 2.07%, so they're fairly closely tied together this year. And this is a projected enrollment for next year. We can see the COVID dip here. So we're kind of trending back to some of the community growth that I briefly discussed earlier. This is a chart of the combined or total operating and debt services tax levy growth, the 2.07%. So banked tax caps. So we talked a little bit about the tax caps that have been in effect more than a decade now at 2%. So if we don't tax to the maximum, or we have waivers that we don't use, we put them in a banked a tax cap bank, so to speak. So that lasts for 3 years. So this year we have in red, we have $51,000, just under $52,000 expiring. So that has been proposed to be put in the tax levy for this year, along with the $94,684 that was generated last year. So that $146,000 and change makes our proposed tax levy increase go over that 2% slightly. It does appear that we're going to generate somewhere a little over $600,000 from this current budget because of healthcare waivers we will not be taking this year. So that'll be available for 3 further budgets starting in the 26, going 27, and then 28. So that'll be available in the future if we need it. This looks at our fund balance. We have seen growing fund balance. I combine a lot of the categories. There's a lot of New Jersey likes to make things confusing with the counting. The capital reserve, once you put those funds in capital reserve, the only thing they can be used for are for capital related projects. Even if a district were to suffer dire financial consequences, there's no statutory remedy to take that money out and use it for operating purposes. So, you don't want to put all your money in there, but you want to have adequate funds to be able to fund certain types of projects that come up. So we've been using capital reserve over the years, but we're looking to add back to that slowly to build that up for projects that we may need that would have to be done outside of referenda. This looks at how we spent our operating budget in 2023. As you can see, the giant buckets here are salaries, benefits, and charter school, making up 80 to 83%. When you look at what's left there, there's not a whole lot. Insurance and Student services, out of district tuitions, energy costs. So not a lot of discretionary funding left when you look outside of the big three. So this breaks out a little further. Salary, benefits, and charter school costs are just under 83%. Total other expenses are 17%. And then to the right, we break out that 17%, and you have insurance, legal and professional services here, $2 million. Maintenance custodial, $2.3 million. Energy, transportation, and then out of district tuitions at a little over $3 million. And this was for actual 23 results. That leaves $4.8 million of other costs, everything outside of those things that we mentioned. So this is looks at our fiscal 22, fiscal 23 actual, and our projected fiscal 24 estimated results, which is our current budget year, fiscal 24. It highlights those areas where we are spending more money: student services, multilingual learners, AIS, elementary guidance has shown 10% increase over 2 years, and that's annual. So that's pressuring the budget. Transportation, as I mentioned before, is very high over the last 2 years, 1.6 million. District benefits, which includes Social Security and pensions. So most of our pensions for most of our pension costs are paid for on behalf by the state of New Jersey. It pays for all districts across the state. I think it's the single largest. I know it's the single largest item in the state budget, the pension cost for police, fire, but for all teachers and certificated staff, certificate administrators like myself, the state pays the pension costs across the state. But we do pay for non-certificated pensions, and that is increasing somewhere about around 15-16% each year. So that's driving up some of these benefit costs. We've had favorable healthcare claims experience over the last couple of years. We hope that continues. But this is trying to analyze better some of the salaries we look at in totality and allocating them to the areas where they're charged to. The adopted revenues, 92% of our revenues are from local sources, including Cranberry. We only get 8% from state aid. We now do get 2% of our revenues from Princeton University. We are forced to balance a fund balance number each year. This year, it's $3.5 million. That would be money that we don't plan on spending every year. If we did, we would run out of money very quickly. But we are required. New Jersey has very conservative accounting rules compared to the rest of the country. When we did our debt service debt rating review a couple of years ago, it was made very clear that other school districts in different parts of the country have as much as 20% of fund balance, and we're mandated to only keep 4%. So that's where that's where that $3.5 million comes in. We're forced to budget it each year, but we don't want to have to budget it, and we don't plan on spending it each year. So that's our snapshot of our revenues. There has been, like I said, with interest rates going up, we have had some positives, a little more investment earnings, with short-term rates being hovering over 5% for the better part of a year now. It's helped a little bit, but obviously it hasn't fully offset the rising costs that we talked about. These are some of the big picture movements. Clear here that I'm not including fund balance in the budget. That's why you'll see that it's $3.5 billion less than the tentative adopted budget resolution. So we look at the big picture things here. We want to focus on, salaries and benefits. So in 3 years, 4% increase, it becomes, challenging to maintain that. We also did get more state aid this year. Unfortunately, it was offset on our funding of our local charter school. Not that we don't love our charter school But, you know, so it was kind of a net there. We have had increasing state aid in the last 7 years under the current regime at the state level. We have spent, you know, a lot on maintenance and custodial each year. This actually was a kind of a peak year of spending in 2022. So it looks like it's kind of gone down, but we have consistently tried to maintain and fix things. It's important. We try to do it as cost effectively and efficiently as possible. Our maintenance staff is much lower than it was in district compared to 10 years ago. So it's a constant challenge there. You know, our out-of-district tuitions have gone up. One of the things I talked about earlier was some of the, you know, we're certainly not going to use COVID as a scapegoat, but there's certainly a lot of pressure on, you know, a district our size. You know, we're not really able to maintain every individual type of specialized special ed program that all our students need. It just wouldn't be possible in a right around 4,000 student district. So we do have to, we will always be sending students out of district. You know, when a district gets closer to the size of, well, like a West Windsor, you know, around 10,000 students and more, and we're able to program out all the different types of various programs that are needed. So it's one of the more unpredictable parts of the school district's budget, like ours. The out-of-district tuitions, they go up and down, ebbs and flows. And then the transportation costs are increasing and hopefully are stabilizing. And those are kind of the big picture movements here. I'm looking at this is the actual tentative adopted budget, which shows the forced budgeting of the $3.5 million in fund balance. We've had Princeton University has been a great partner over the last couple of years, and extraordinary aid has kind of flattened out. The state, although they've increased their educational spending significantly, has not been increasing that line item, and I think the inflation has driven that. So that's another one of those prorated costs. It's basically a grant program where each year we submit to the state all those students that have exceedingly high educational costs, both in district and out of district, and the state refunds a portion of that. It's prorated. I forgot what number, was down to the low 80s last year percent. So we got $2.6 million. If you divided that by the proration, I think we submitted costs of very close to $4 million. So we never quite know. It's one of the hard to factor in budget items. We don't know yet. The last time I checked, the state has not published their detailed state budget, which we get to see what they've allocated at their in the state budget towards this extraordinary aid program. But they do spend statewide somewhere around $450 million across all the districts. So we're competing against other districts for those funds. And once again, this shows a top line operating tax levy increase of 2.17%. This looks at our tentative adopted budget expenditures, which by law have to match the revenues, 108.579, 108.579. Thanks, Daphna. So we're really trying to control personnel growth. I think it's 75% of our budget goes to salaries and benefits. So it's important to maintain that and keep that under control. And you can see some of the challenges here with transportation, with energy costs. We are going out to reverse auction tomorrow for both natural gas, which doesn't expire till the very end of this calendar year, and electricity. We're hoping to get favorable bids back to hopefully help with rising energy costs. And you can see here that year over year, our charter school budget went up about $600,000 to $552,000. So in a nutshell, our benefit costs are, this looks like a huge increase, but it's not, because this is kind of where we put the fund balance that we don't want to spend. So we've been trending okay, though, lately with benefit costs. So we hope to keep that trend going. That's the summary of the presentation. So now I'll take questions from board members.
Thank you, Mr. Bolden. What was, let's say from 21 through 24, what's the inflation rate?
21 to 24?
Yeah.
The CPI?
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's been up and down. It is now back to just over 3%, but it hit 8-9%.
Yeah. I think you've done a tremendous, you and Jeannie have done a tremendous job keeping the budget in the twos, given all those pressures.
Thank you.
Yep. Thank you. Adam.
Yeah, it seems things are going to probably just go up and up, though. Where savings, again, I know I'm new to this, can we compress? Can teachers do more? In the sense, taking our teachers, or can they go teach at different schools? I know that might happen. Collapse some jobs if possible. Again, that's teachers are the most important things on the front line. Special ed, we spend a lot on special ed. Are we over some students in special ed who maybe don't qualify? I don't know. We have to, it's just going to keep going up, though, I think. That's what we're facing.
Yeah, we try to be as efficient as we can with the quote unquote discretionary spending. We have kept flat and Ms. Kendall asked about inflation rates. So we've capped our school budgets now. This is the fourth year. So we do have to kind of reallocate them each year because we do get some title funding and they mandate that. So each school will go up and down based on their enrollments and their weightings of their students that are classified. So we are trying to maintain costs where we can.
No matter what we are, I mean, maybe that's what we want, but we spend more. We're always in the top 5 in spending for type 2 schools. And that's what the board wants and the people want. But things are going to be going up. I'd be err on the side of that going to happen, I think, and everyone should be prepared for that then. I'm not an expert yet. You are, and everything about how schools save money. Is it to a deficit to education, though? I don't know. We have to see.
Matt, just to clarify, there was a lot of numbers, as there always are, and it's hard for us to follow all of it so quickly. Are you posting this? Will this be available for people to see and kind of digest?
Yes. That brings back. Well, I won't get into that, but I have a funny set of coasters from a certain president who said, and I won't even say who it was, but it must be a budget that has a lot of numbers in it.
There's a lot of numbers.
It was not me.
No, not a school board president.
Oh, okay.
The U.S. president said that.
Yeah.
We can all guess.
It wasn't me. It wasn't you.
I have two questions. One was simply, I noticed when you talked about Princeton University, I think we've talked about this in our committee. You have a 2.386 number. We have a 2.7. We started at 2.75. It's going up 4% every year. I believe you're taking a block of that 500,000 maybe, or whatever's appreciating by 4%.
Yeah, it was new to us, and we did budget the full amount. They are allocating $500,000 to fund certain strategic plan initiatives. So although that was, it's not restricted technically, but we are now accounting for that in a grant fund. So
right. So when the
special revenue fund, so we can track those programs and then report back to the university on how we're spending that money.
So it's a number that's over 2.8 at this point, not 2.3. The total from them is growing. Just want to make sure people see that because I looked at it again and I always forget. But so that's a big number. Thank you. And the other thing I just wanted, just the bottom line is we had a couple different numbers, 2.17. It's a 2.48. Like, what is the increase or what's the levy this year? 2.48 estimated levy, which is effectively a 2.26% because of the size of the tax base, which is increasing. Is that the number 2.48?
The total tax levy for our fiscal year school tax levy is 2.07% when you combine the operating and the capital.
2.07. Okay,
Mhm.
with both. Okay. So that's helpful. And that's the actual, not the effective.
Right.
Okay.
And of course, the calendar is different because it takes half of our fiscal 25 and half of our previous year. So it,
But the number that
always
people
can-
like to focus on. Thank you.
Yes. You're welcome.
Matt, one line item, I think if you go to the prior slide, no, actually, it's like 24 or 25.
Yeah.
Expenses. Yeah, 26. There, that's fine. Athletics shows it going up by 18%. We've been through this in operations. I wonder if you could just comment on I believe there are 4 reasons for the increase that provide excellent context for that.
Yeah, the 2 major reasons, the first one being that we have outsourced the management of the pool from a full-time salary position to a contracted position. We also contract with an agency that provides athletic training services. We used to have more people within the district that were able to cover those events, and we're not able to do that anymore. Those are the 2 major drivers.
And then I correct me if I'm wrong, but I recall 2 less big drivers that were also significant. One was an increase in the number of lifeguards to conform with state law. And the second was the increase in transportation costs, which are in the athletics budget and not in the transportation budget.
That's right. The contracted pool services include fully staffing the PMS pool. We use it probably close to 1,000 hours during the school year teaching swimming. And the size of the pool necessitates by law that there are 2 lifeguards on the deck at all times.
Can I just comment on, for the benefit of our newer colleagues, that obviously this is a long-term effort, and we in our ops committee now are trying to look ahead 3 years. When I first got on the board, it was just year to year, and we just got everything dropped, and now we try to see what we can work on. And one of the things we do in long-term planning is think about how we try to manage the costs, because we know costs are going up, and it's a problem. It's a challenge for us. But transportation, for example, transportation, we've been hit with this incredible increase, but it's one of the things that we hope through smart planning, we can try to kind of get back under control if possible, because we have a lot of children who are moving all around across the district, every different direction currently, because with COVID and the fact that we have a dual language program and students aren't going to their district. So there's a lot of transportation costs that we hope that with long-term planning, we can try to get a handle on a little bit more. And on the energy front, I know that we have now, after the last 2 referendums, improved the buildings, the facilities, the roofs, with an idea of eventually bringing in some solar, right? So we're trying to think about ways, and I think the help of Jenny Ludmer on getting our buildings to compete against each other in terms of energy efficiency and kind of changing the culture, it's very exciting, because that offers us an opportunity to bring some of those costs down. And I also would note that in long-term planning, we think about, when we think about these different models for what we want to build, if you build a new standalone building, when you talk about utilization of personnel, which is one of our biggest drivers, you think about how do you structure the district going forward to try to most effectively utilize the people that we have and not create additional positions. So I just wanted to make that point, because I think it's important that, this is not just a 1-year thing. This is something we have to be thinking about looking forward 3 to 5 years.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Any other comments from the board? All right, I'm going to open up public comment now for just the budget. So again, please just state your name, the street you live on, and if you could please keep your comments to 3 minutes. Thank you.
Hi there, Jessica Vieira, Stockton Street. Thank you so much, Matt, for all of the work that you do on this. It's tedious, I know. I appreciate all of the information. As many of you know, I've been pretty active in the master planning for the town, or at least not active, but commented on the master planning for the town. And one of the areas that I'm particularly interested in is the cost of transportation, as well as the traffic that we experience in our town. Transportation has gone up 14%. In the last, 3 years. It's over $1 million in our budget over the last 4 years, or almost 2. I would love to see cooperation with the town, especially for folks who are close into town, where maybe we could get a circular bus that's running during school hours for kids that are middle school and high school aged, so that they can ride the public transportation, and maybe that would help to eliminate some of the high school busing, or at least share the cost. It would also help for moms like me and many of us that are in this room and probably on the call that shuttle our and dads that shuttle our kids back and forth with no reason. I mean, I guarantee you that most of the traffic that we see from 7:30 to 8:30 is because of the school, as well as from 3 to 4. So just something to think about in working with the community. Thanks so much.
Thank you. And we would appreciate your advocacy on that. Okay. Any other comments on the budget? Okay. And any?
Yeah, I just did want to take the time to not just thank Matt, Janine, and the team, but this is a year where Dr. Foster and Dr. Tu and members of the central staff really dug in. And so in terms of Matt's desire to have this space function as a zero-based budget, it only works if you get the attention of the CEO, so to speak, and the top folks. And on behalf of the operations committee, we're very grateful for the active role that the senior administration has played in the construction of this year's budget, and the care that you've shown to make sure that we preserve all of our frontline teachers and all of the education, the resources that go to the education of our children.
Thanks, Brian.
All right. Moving on now. J1, harassment, intimidation, bullying. And now we're going to the board committee highlights with my reminding you it's 9:30. And the first one up is, they didn't change the clocks, Matt.
Sorry.
Spring ahead. Yeah. Long-term, sorry for letting you know. Long-term planning with Beth, Susan will be speaking.
I'll be speaking. I'll keep it short. Long-term planning met on March 29th as the work continues in the district in the planning process. We know that they've been continuing to listen to feedback like we heard tonight from the public, and also an FAQ is being worked on, which will summarize all the questions that we have received from the public, and hopefully in one place give people information on where to find things. So we thank everyone for the input they've continuously given to improve the plans as they develop.
Thank you. I'm guessing from the movement that Brian McDonald will be giving. Brian McDonald will be giving.
Yes, if anybody needs to
support.
take a sip of water or anything before I dive in, go ahead. I'll be shorter than usual. We received updates on approximately 10 projects that are part of the 2022 and 2023 referenda. Matt has prepared a draft of a spreadsheet to make it easier for the committee and the board to track the progress of all of the projects, and he's going to continue to refine it with feedback from the committee, and within a month or two that should be available to the full board so you can see everything that's going on, and it's quite a lot. 3 main observations: all projects are progressing in a satisfactory manner. Second, it will be an exceptionally busy summer. And as reported earlier, New Roads, our construction manager, will have 2 full-time staff on site, with one primarily focused on the roofing projects. And third, both the 2022 and 2023 referenda are currently moderately under budget. And we're tracking that very carefully. Playgrounds, a topic of great interest to everybody. Edwards Engineering and L2A will be reviewing all 5 playground projects to ensure that repairs, upgrades, and equipment purchases are all carefully planned, and that there is clear communication with central office administrators, principals, and the PTOs. So we have resourced this to make sure that there is sufficient oversight to drive these projects forward, as some of us feel that they need to move forward a little more robustly than perhaps they have over the past 6 to 9 months. I wanted to highlight a couple of other things. Matt talked about the energy auction, but the middle school softball scoreboard project, we were informed that the long delayed purchase and installation of a scoreboard for our softball teams will move forward at an estimated cost of $25,000, which will come from maintenance reserve. School Dudes, which is the information system we use to manage ongoing maintenance, is getting more and more traction, which Dave Harding spoke about. He told us that the number of outstanding work orders was manageable and being attended to. He also noted a recent focus on some projects at Littlebrook, which I know the Littlebrook community will be happy to know they're getting attention that they've been advocating for. And the last note was just on the budget. And I said my thanks, but thanks again.
Thank you. Moving on now to personnel with Mara.
Personnel met on March 7th. It's job fair season. We had, Rebecca was very busy. PPS was attending job fairs at TCNJ, Ryder, and several other colleges, and CJ Pride. John and Beckles presented on the guidance coverage for the summer at PHS and PMS, and we've approved this as we did last summer. So this summer there will be guidance coverage at the high school from Monday through Thursday. Fridays are off. And the middle school. So. And on the agenda tonight, we have 3 job descriptions for approval. One's for the supervisor of early childhood to support our growing preschool program. One is to support the supervisor of the multi-tier support services and special programs, which includes grants for the district. And we have a chief technology officer job description to better support the growing technology needs of the district. Thank you.
Thank you. And can I just ask, are those new roles or are they redefined?
Yes. It's actually both. So so the chief technology officer, what we are doing is we are creating this position by collapsing another position within the technology department, and it really allows us to seek a leader with in-depth technical experience in the infrastructure, as well as some innovative technology and working with the staff, the current staff. And then the other 2 are taking over. It's hard to replace Val Ulrich. And so we're really splitting that role so that one will be the supervisor of early childhood and the other supervisor of multi-tier systems of support and special projects. And I believe that is being funded by
Yes, so the supervisor of early childhood will be fully funded by the preschool education aid because they fund us as economy to scale. So I missed the beginning of Matt's presentation. I'm sorry, Matt. You do great work. But one of the good news pieces was that our PEA monies also increased this year because we are adding classrooms, and we continue to add classrooms to have someone dedicated to the program, because it really is like a principalship. We're across 9 different classrooms. We have community partners. We have preschool rooms within our district. It's transportation, it's food service, it's curriculum, it's identifying for special services, all of the things. So to have that funded fully by the state is wonderful, and so that's why we were able to kind of divide up the role at a cost neutral support. And then the other role I'm super excited about because it really bridges our general education program and our special education program. Some of the audit findings that took place a few years ago were how can we kind of bring those 2 houses together and provide early interventions and supports to students. You saw in some of our data that we're making some great strides, but we still have room to grow and improve. And so this person will be sort of overseeing the intervention referral services program at each one of our elementary and middle and high school, and talk about tiered systems of support for behavior, for academics, and for social emotional well-being. And having that dedicated person sort of tracking the data, looking, overseeing testing and grants, sort of how do we align the funding and the data to the programming is going to be really instrumental. And it's something that I think is really exciting and can bring a lot of positive systems change to our district.
Okay, thank you. So the question I should have asked is it budget neutral?
Yes. Yes.
Thank you. Moving on now to policy with Beth.
Yeah, thank you. With Policy Committee met on March 6th, and we spent, I think, almost the whole meeting just talking about the new policy alert, which we received from our policy service, Strauss Esme. And there were just a number of policies which we have moved forward to first read, and many of them really were related to a kind of technical changes that were made by the State Board of Education with respect to the equity policy, which really added a new category of protected class in terms of income. And I think also, I can't remember the other one. There's two new classes, and they just kind of changed about 8 or 9 policies that way. So we moved those forward to first read, and we talked a bit about governance and our calendars and how to better track for board understanding of what we do throughout the year, and also looking forward over the next 3 to 5 years, just keeping track. And we meet again on April 17th at 3:45 p.m. and that is a public meeting. Thank you.
Thanks, Beth. And next up is student achievement with Betsy.
Thank you. We met on March 8th. We've been busy in student achievement. We met a few times. But the first thing we discussed, Krista Gallion came from our technology office to discuss the work of the one-to-one device committee. And the committee has looked at the one-to-one the program that was rolled out just when the pandemic was beginning. A survey went out to staff for feedback on how students use these devices. And it's found that the biggest suggestion is to implement Chromebooks at the middle school and to roll that out over time. At this moment, there's no board decision to be made, but they were keeping us informed. So we thank them for the work. And Debbie, you serve as the board rep for that committee. So thank you for that. Dr. Tu proposed 3 overnight trips. They're on the agenda for today, for this evening. We also, Dr. Foster discussed how our district is working on looking through and just thinking about a policy for an adoption of an anti-Semitism statement. We had many members of the public attend our meeting on March 8th to discuss this topic, and we thank them and everyone for participating. We then met in closed session on March 8th and March 12th. There are 3 topics we discussed that are on the agenda for today, so I just wanted to note them. Special thanks to the middle school for developing a day trip to Washington, D.C. This is back. It used to be an overnight trip. We all may have children who went on that trip at one point, but this is the first time they're going back since the pandemic. We appreciate that they've found a cost-effective way to do this trip, and it will be a very long day, but we wish them a wonderful trip that happens in early April. That's also on our agenda this evening. There's a textbook adoption for new U.S. history textbooks. Thanks to Keisha Smith-Carrington for joining us at our meeting to describe why these are so needed. We talked a lot about the digital subscriptions that come along with hardcover textbooks and the way things are going. So all students' needs will be met. If they need a hard copy textbook at home, they will have one. Finally, we have, thanks to Ms. Burge, who's still here, a new dual enrollment program with TCNJ. One of our high school courses, Accelerated Sociology, will be offered for dual enrollment at TCNJ. So we're still working out the details, but the memorandum of agreement is on our board agenda this evening. So I think that's it. Our next meeting is April 12th at 11. It says 11. I think is it 11 or 11:30? We will.
It's 11.
Okay.
We switched it when we did 2024 to 11. Yep.
11 a.m. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. And now we'll move on to the rest of the agenda, which is quite lengthy. So, stop me if you need to. L1, policies for first reading. L2, policies for second reading. Moving on, M1, resignations. M2, retirements. I'll just say that we have 3 employees that are retiring from the district with 58 years of experience. And we wish them well and long and healthy retirements. Next up is appointments. M4, personnel items. M5, leave of absence. M6, substitutes. M7, curriculum and instruction. M8, student services. M9, job descriptions. Moving on to curriculum and instruction. N1, NJ DOE 24-25 preschool expansion aid. N2, grant application to expand access to climate change. That's good. Good luck to us. We haven't gotten one yet, so fingers crossed. Next up is the dual enrollment, the MOU for the dual enrollment that Betsy mentioned. And I think you said, right, that they would get college credit?
I'm not sure I said it, but yes.
Okay.
They
college
will
credit.
get college credit. There is a fee for that.
Mhm.
And we're sort of working out all the details, but that's a very new initiative.
Right. And that's in addition to the AP, the 29 AP classes. Great. Thank you. And 4 student day trips, and 5 student overnight trips, and 6 purchase of materials, and 7 educational consulting. And this is just a pass through. Is that right? I think it is. Yeah. 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 Yep. No. 01 educational placement. Moving on to the business reports. P1 financial reports. P2 fire evacuation drills. P3 adoption of the tentative budget. P4 travel expenditures for 24-25. P5 renewal of transportation contract. Renewal. P6 is renewal of athletic transportation. P7 transportation agreement. P8 is the window film contract award. So we're seeing some of the referendum money is being spent. P9 formal bid award, the pool lighting upgrade. P10, again, we're seeing some of the referendum money, turf and track, pool lighting and playgrounds. P11 resolution that we're going to do that electric reverse buyback that Mr. Bolden mentioned. Good luck. Resolution authorizing the purchase of natural gas supply. Also good luck. And P13 professional services appointment. P14 registration travel agenda. And we'll move on now to our final public comment. Is there anyone who has anything to say? And just so you know, this is a bonus public comment section.
Bonus.
So we
But
have
it doesn't
3.
have anything to do with the budget, so I'm back.
So we had 3 public comments tonight.
I just wanted to say thank you to Kathy for helping at the high school. We got some great support in the technology department, and it has opened up the access for all of our students to get their computers and their devices repaired, which has been huge. But I don't know if anyone really looked at the numbers as much as I did. But I did happen to notice that $15,000 was spent on repairing Apple Chromebooks, most of its screens, that all seem to be timing out at the same time. My son is one of them. I have a 9th grader who received his computer in 5th grade, and 3 of his friends all at the same time had the same issue where they started getting crosshairs and the screens needed to be replaced. It happens, I get it, but I just wonder that going forward, could we make sure that we stagger the rollout of these systems, because they all seem to be failing at the same time. And then secondly, I have a child who went for 10 days without a device because there were no devices available, which meant that he had a lot of homework to do in the evenings on my device, which wasn't the best either. So just something to think about, maybe rentals or whatever else. But thank you again.
Thanks. And Jess, I'll just say that there were some product quality control issues around the pandemic, right? So that's.
No, I get it, but
Yeah.
it's a lot, right?
Yeah.
And that's only the
Mhm.
people that didn't have insurance. So it's 50 people in 1 month of expenses. I can only imagine the total number. It'd be interesting to look at just to see.
Thank you. Okay, anyone else?
Hi, Abby Kalmbach again for this bonus session. I just wanted bonus round. I was thinking
We
about
don't want the meeting to end either.
Yeah, sorry. So I'll be really quick. I was thinking about one of the comments earlier tonight about having gospel spirituals in the schools for Black History Month and to celebrate Black history. I am a product of Catholic schools and am the first one to say, like, keep religion out of schools and other places. I also know, though, that that gospels and spirituals were a form of singing and protest and a way, and I'm sure more of these songs were sung on the fields versus in actual churches. And so there's a big disconnect between what is Christianity and what this music is. And so I think but this misunderstand or this not knowledge of the entire aspect of a diverse presentation can happen if we're not also educating the parents along with us. And perhaps next year, when the spirituals go out, there could be a little segment as to why this is not a separate, or this is not a blending of church. Or if we talk about the Stonewall riots, there's a way of getting education to the parents about why this is important to talk about. And some of my colleagues who've discussed high tops inclusivity are no longer here tonight, but that having further education as to why different groups of people were marginalized in the past was something that was of interest to everybody as knowledge and history. And so I think if we can tie that into the curriculum, both for the kids and the parents, we can have a more cohesive understanding of why these different voices matter. So thank you.
Thank you. All right, anyone else? All right, and with that, I will move on to our consent vote. Can I get a motion to approve the consent agenda? Debbie, second, Mara?
Daphne Kendall,
Yes.
Betsy Bagwell,
Yes.
Beth Barron,
Yes.
Adam Bierman,
Yes.
Debbie Bronfeld,
Yes.
Mara Franceschi,
Yes.
Eleanor Hubbard,
Yes.
Susan Cantor,
Yes.
Brian McDonald,
Yes.
Rob Christopher.
Yes.
Consent agenda passes.
All right, thank you, Mr. Bolden, and thank you and Janine for a wonderful job on the the tentative budget. We appreciate all your hard work. We hope you will respond to your emails now.
I have been. I said I may be slow to
I know,
respond.
I know. Yeah. But anyway, good job. Yeah. I'd like, this is our last meeting before spring break, and I'd like to wish that everyone, our staff, students, parents, community, have a restful spring break. And then we'll come back and we'll have the race to the finish. So thank you, everyone. Can I get a motion to adjourn? Beth, second. Betsy. All in favor? All right. Good night. Thank you.